We basically are wanting you, our esteemed corporate partners, to be part and parcel of this food security in Zimbabwe. The story cannot be complete if corporates don't come on board. We know employees and employers have a love relationship. I was going to say love-hate, but we want to start the season on a positive note. And so we say employers and employees have a love relationship. And this love relationship must be brought at a household level outside the working space. So what we are saying is that as SEEDCO, we want to walk the journey with you, our partners. Some of you, we work with you as suppliers. Some of you, we work with you as just colleagues. Some of you, we buy from you. And so we can't walk this seed and food security journey alone without bringing you on board. And you know, when government and our key policymakers and stakeholders talk of food security, it cannot be just one entity or one stakeholder talking about it. We all have to be on board. And because Zimbabweans who work, one Zimbabwean who works is probably looking after 20 family members. So we want to say, how can we offload that burden from them as employees? How can we offload that burden from you as employers? We have the solution. We have the seed. We are the home of Bamba Harvest. We've been in operation for the last 81 years. We were established in 1940. So our seeds are seeds that really can turn around morale at the workplace, turn around food security at household level, turn around even joy and harmony when people meet for Christmas. So I thought with those remarks, before I go into my presentation, I wanted us to put into context why we've decided to bring you on board. We want to demystify issues of agriculture in the workplace. We want to bring harmony in the workplace through SEEDCO seeds. We want to bring just morale in the workplace through SEEDCO seeds. So yes, before I go into my presentation, I just want to say thank you and welcome. Please pay attention, be attentive, and don't hesitate to ask questions as we go through our presentations. Chiedza, if we can go to the next slide. So as I have said, we are encouraging corporates and other organizations to purchase SEEDCO seeds for their employees. Hence, we are hosting a unique webinar, which we have dubbed Virtual Employee Input Scheme Symposium. This scheme brings about an opportunity for internal corporate social responsibility and investment, where corporates are encouraged to procure seeds for their employees, either as a gift or as a deductible expense. We won't go into the detail, but you know, from where I sit, corporate social responsibility is normally done externally. But we are saying through SEEDCO seeds, we can also bring corporate social investment internally to our employees. So this initiative we are hoping, and I know it will, this initiative will promote workforce productivity, as this will boost employee morale. Instead of our employees roaming around looking for seed that is suitable for their ecological regions, employers can purchase seed from SEEDCO. This really is being about innovativeness and managing downtime. It is also about positively enhancing employer and employee relationships, like I alluded to earlier on. You know, there's so much seed out there, including our own, and some people do not know which variety is suitable for their ecological region. You know, as we sit on our desks, we just hear Mbuya or Amai from Kumusha saying, "Ugondigra mbizi, and for some of us, and I've networked and I engage with a lot of us, some of us don't even know what this is all about. So we want you to be informed, so that when you are talking to your employees, when your employees are talking to their kith and kin, they know exactly what we're talking about, because these Mbizi and Tsoko, they actually have a bearing on the transformation process of livelihoods. If you purchase the right seed for the right ecological region, you will notice that food will never lack in your household. And that is what we're trying to do as SEEDCO. So apart from just providing seed, the silver lining is we also offer good agronomic advice and best farming practices. Which seed do you choose for which ecological region? You've seen Wendy, who shades are introduced to us earlier on. You've seen her bringing thought leadership to agriculture to say this is the right variety to this ecological region. Zimbabwe has about 5 or 7 ecological regions. When you will talk to us about that. But we just don't want to walk into a supermarket. We just don't want to walk into any place and pick up a packet. We want to pick a packet or a bag of seed, or we want to buy from SEEDCO the right seed for the right ecological region. So product placement becomes critical. And who better to teach or to bring that information to our employees than you, our CEOs, our MDs, and HR executives who are on this platform. So this food security space and discourse and conversation really involves everyone. No one must be left behind. So as SEEDCO, we have various new varieties in our product portfolio. I know when we talk about that, we all know, everyone knows Mbizi. Everyone knows Mbizi. And SEEDCO now has a gem, a real gem, which you can talk to your employees about, which they in turn can talk to their folks about, the SC555. It's Mbizi, it's in the Mbizi series, and it's a real gem. It's a game changer. When we talk about that later on. Because this variety has really become very popular with farmers as it gives improved yields. It is a border-to-border high yielder. Agronomists say it's adaptable to all ecological regions. However, there are also other seeds that will boost yields and we'll go into, and when we'll go into it later on. So as SEEDCO, we are saying all these seed maize varietal attributes will cover every ecological and geographical region of Zimbabwe. They are all high yielders. And according to our research team, they have a stay green color. And every farmer wants that stay green color, apparently. And in the Tsoko series, you hear your folks talking about Tsoko, the Inkau or the monkey. It's very early when we talk about that. 555, I mentioned it, which is an early variety. The Shumba, we will talk about that as well when we do that. The late elephant, the reason why we gave these names is for ease of identification. The rural folks can't remember all these codes. They can't remember all these codes. But if you say Mbizi, it relates to them. It relates to all of us. And some of these are totems. And just to demystify, it doesn't follow that if your totem is Tsoko, therefore you must buy Tsoko. If your totem is Mbizi, therefore you must buy Mbizi. Our agronomists will tell us all about it. As I said, just for clarity, it doesn't follow that your totem is the one suitable for your ecological region. Hence, we have 20 SEEDCO agronomists who work very closely with agri-techs officers. They are available to give you information and to work with you in terms of proper product selection and placement. We are also saying, at the end of the day, people talk about cost or, I'll just give you an example. I gave seed to somebody last year, and this time I bought seed for them again. I bought 5 kgs for them last year. I bought 2 kgs for them this year. I went and dropped that seed. They still had left over from last year. So we are saying, government has really brought the issue of conservation farming, Fumvuza, into us on board. We don't have to be buying these huge packets, or we don't have to be buying these small packets. There is a pack for each and every plot holder. There's a pack for each and every plot holder. So for example, when we talk about it, 2 kgs is enough to cover a quarter of an hectare, which will give a farmer almost a ton, and a ton can feed a family of 6 to 7 for the entire year. 5 kgs will cover an acre, giving 6 tons. And this can actually feed a family of 8 to 10. 10 kgs covers an acre. Let me get that right. 5 kgs, 2 kgs covers a quarter of an acre. And this will give it almost a ton. 5 kgs covers half an acre, giving us 2.5 tons. These tonnages will be able to feed a family of 6 to 7 for the entire year. 10 kgs at Tauri, or 20,000 kernels. This covers an acre, giving 5 tons. So a family will be able to not just feed themselves, but also even to deliver to GMB. When they deliver to GMB, they'll have they'll be able to get extra money and do other things, pay tuition, etc., etc. 25 kgs or 50,000 kernels, it covers a hectare or more, and this gives us 12 tons. 12 tons, like I said, when I mentioned the 2 kgs, 5, 10 kgs, it will do just more than food security. It will just also transform livelihoods, even at the financial level. This, I'm talking about these figures, and really, this is about 555. We haven't gone to the long season varieties like your Nzo or your Shumba. 555 of Mbizi is a border to border. And if you have done everything in terms of good agronomic practices, you'll be able to achieve the tonnages that I mentioned. Then we have vegetables. Look, anyone can plant vegetables, including some of us apartment dwellers. Anyone can plant vegetables. Again, issues of food security. So this is where the concept of Pfumvudza Intwasa conservation farming introduced by government becomes key and critical. It covers everyone, including the young and the old, the vulnerable, the haves and the have-nots. Everyone should be able to access and afford seedco seeds. And everyone should be able to feed themselves, at least themselves and their immediate family and their extended family. So as breadwinners, our employees can now afford to provide their parents and loved ones with a bag or packet of seed from Seedco. The employer, which is you or who is you, can chip in without feeling the financial strain. I know employers are saying, we can't afford, but we can afford, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that we can all try and do. If we're all to talk the same language of conservation farming, Pfumvudza, remember Pfumvudza is a concept, then we would have been able to beat the hunger at household level. With seed security comes food security. I thought I should just add that so that we unbundle the concept of saying, seed is expensive. As Seedco, we've gone a mile. We've taken an extra mile to bring about packaging that is suitable for any plot holder. I know when they will talk about it, but I just thought from a stakeholder point of view, let's try and clarify that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Let's listen attentively to Wendy as she takes us on the agronomy and the seed availability journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was Ms. Marjorie Mutemererwa, as I've already introduced her, Ms. Marjorie Mutemererwa, our head of public relations and communications, telling us that everyone is a farmer, including us, the white collar professionals too. We are all farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, please do make use of the question and answer forum. If you have any questions as we go throughout the presentations, do make use of the question and answer forum. We will be answering your questions as we go, even as the panelists see your question, they'll be also attending to each and every question. So if you have any burning questions as the presentations go on, do make use of the question and answer forum. Next up, we are going to have Dr. Philemon Chitago. Dr. Philemon Chitago is from IPMZ. Dr. Philemon Chitago, I've just invited him to give us a word or two from the employee perspective, why such programs are important for the employees and also for the employer. Dr. Chitago, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chieza, and thank you, Marjorie, for the presentation. I think this is something that we need in Zimbabwe as we look at what is generally happening around us. Rains are by the corner, and instead of maybe worrying to say, where am I going to get the seed? I think an avenue has been created. So I'm simply going to look at how we can then create excitement around these issues. And one of the issues that come to my mind is the engagement, the one that we call employee engagement. So from my understanding, and also looking at the trends around the world, when there is a strong connection between the head, the heart, and the hands, it creates what we call the employee engagement. And that is very key for any organization. Where there is no engagement, then it follows that productivity, profitability also go down. The issues to do with the employee morale, the issues to do with the loyalty, also go down. And it's very important that as we design strategies to create excitement among employees, then we also take that into account. But what is also very important as we create that journey is then to look at the process that defines the future, starting with the attraction of the employees, picking the right stars, affirming the decisions, building strengths and purpose, driving expectations, coaching the employees, and this then gives you the positive exit experience that you need for any business success. So it's very important that as you look at that, you are building the organization for the future. You are building a resilient organization and an organization that can pass the test. So according to Gallup survey, it shows that 53% of the employees in any organizations are not engaged. It also shows that 34% of the employees in any organizations are engaged, and 13% of the employees in any organization are actively disengaged. And what does that mean? So if you've got the greater chunk of your employees who are not engaged, it follows that most of the things or the initiatives that you then bring into the business are not recognized. And therefore, you need to do a lot of work to convert the disengaged employees into engaged ones. Then if you also look at what Gallup says about the same, they said 31.5% employees in some organizations are engaged, and these are employees who have got passion and feeling to remain in the business, and they drive innovation, and more so, they want to see the organization moving forward. And 16.5% these are employees who are defined as actively disengaged. And these are employees who are not happy about anything. No matter we are bringing in input scheme for them, they will not even feel happy about it. And their happiness is then a source of discontent among the rest of the employees who will be engaged. And at the end of the day, it also affects the productivity. I'm not sure how many minutes I have, Chiedza.
I can give you 5 more minutes, Dr. Chitago.
Okay. So when you also look at the disengaged employees, from the study which Gallup did, they say 52.0% are employees who have already checked out of the organization. They just need maybe someone to push them out, but they have already resigned. They are no longer putting any effort. They are no longer, they no longer have energy or passion to work in the respective business. So what does that mean? If employees are engaged, profitability of the business increases, sales increases, productivity also increases. And when you look at issues to do with the absenteeism, they go down. Staff turnover, they go down, low turnover in organization. Then shrinkage also goes down. Safety incidents go down, patient safety incidents and quality issues, they also, the defects also go down. So it's very important that as long as we are bringing in the input scheme or any reward and recognition process, it needs to address a certain need within the business. Now, according to SHRIM, 50% employees who are disengaged affect productivity. Then according to SHRIM, 22% of the disengaged employees also affect productivity. Then according to Gallup, organizations which have employees who are engaged have almost around 77% profitability within the business. So what it means is that we need to focus more on employee engagement so that at the end of the day, some of the parameters that I've already highlighted earlier on are then achieved. And this process can be done across the entire organization. And in our case, we looked at engagement at various levels according to qualifications, engagement according to departments, according to gender, also engagement according to geographical representation, and according also to experience and so forth. So key issues that we looked at as we did the engagement journey, we looked at the strategic direction where we are saying, do employees feel that the organization is moving in the right direction? When we look at the strategy of the business, do they know it? Then the issues around leadership, communication, relationship with the supervisor or colleagues, then remuneration, commitment, and loyalty. We also looked at issues to do with the job design, satisfaction, intention to stay, vigor, dedication, and absorption. These were the factors that we thought were making a lot of sense, and were also impacting employees in one way or another. And in summary, in terms of the overall current employee engagement, we are at 74%. Then in terms of strategic direction, we are at 94%. Leadership index, 71%, communication index, 69%, relationship with the supervisor and the colleagues, 80%. Supervision index, 79%, learning and development index, 77%, remuneration, it's at 46%. This is the lowest engagement index for all other parameters. and I think we know why. But when we look at the national remuneration index, it is at 34%. And if you also look at the global remuneration index, engagement index, it is also around 34%. So what does that mean? Our index is above the national index. It also above the global index. Commitment 76, job design index were at 78%, satisfaction index 77%, intention to stay index, we've got 47%. So we will then go deeper and say, okay, if intention to stay is 47%, which level is highly affected? In our case, we noted that the age group below 40 years, in fact, 40 and below, it reflected that these people are likely to leave the organization earlier than other levels. And also the age group between 41 years and above, they've got a 38.2% of chance of leaving the organization. Then other areas, vigor 78%, dedication 79%, absorption 67%. So in summary, when we look at the employee engagement index outcome measures, it then reflected that commitment and loyalty currently stands at 76%. Intention to stay stands at 47%. So what it means is that if you look at intention to stay and also commitment to loyalty, there is a strong correlation. So if you've got 76% of employees who are committed and are loyal to the organization, then it also follows that you can easily convert the intention to say a percentage. I think for now I can now stop here, but there are still more statistics to talk about maybe later on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chitagu. Wow. Those are some of thought-provoking statistics, and I'm sure the employers and also the employees here have just been nudged to act on such schemes as the schemes that SEEDCO is bringing to you. As he has said, you know, there's 40 years and below, these that have low intention to stay. These are the future of our organizations. And such programs like this, as Dr. Chitagu has already alluded to, will ensure that we boost employee morale, we boost loyalty, and also increase employee retention at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Dr. Chitagu, for those words. Now I will move over to Mr. Benjamin Kwende. Mr. Benjamin Kwende is our all-weather friend. Everything we need to know about forecast and making the most of weather. Mr. Benjamin Kwende with the weather forecast.
Good morning. Please confirm you're seeing my screen.
Yes, we are.
Yes, confirmed.
All right, thank you. So my name is Benjamin Kwenda. I'm an agriculture meteorologist from the Met Services Department. And I will take us through what we are expecting for the season for 2021 to 2022 season. But before we get there, we will just have a brief review on what transpired in the previous season, as we can then derive lessons there and see how we can actually bring them to the next season, so that we are not caught unaware again. This is the outline of my presentation. We have the terminology, a review of the 2020-21 season. Then we also look at the average or the mean start of the rainfall season. and we go to the forecast and the implications. Now, I think this is quite common. We usually use these terms when the seasonal forecast. We speak of what we refer to as the normal, but we have to understand that the normal is as calculated over a period of time and also for a specific area. So in other words, we are saying if you are to look at a 3 months block, then you then calculate what's average rainfall that you receive. Now, when you get the average rainfall value, you then say between 75% to 125% of that average value is then what you refer to as the normal category. The idea is because we don't have the same seasons each time, but the minor variations that always exist, these are normal. We have what we call as climate variability or seasonal variability. So these variations then inform us what is the normal in those areas. But then when we then say above the 125%, in other words, we are now referring to above normal conditions. Then below 75% be the below normal conditions. Now, if I am going to use this illustration for explanation purposes, in every family, we can be like a family of about 6 children. Now, if we are to go and rank on the basis of a height, you can notice that there is a group that occupies the middle category. Then we have the shortest people. Then we also have like the kind of the tallest guys in the same family. Now, what will be normal is what like around the average or around the middle part. Then the shortest guys will definitely be the below normals in that family. And the tallest will then be the above normal in that family again. But one thing you have to notice is what is common or what is normal in this family is not necessarily normal in the other family. And these are the same variations that we can still get as well, even in the seasons, in that what is normal in, and for example, Zarabani is not what is normal in Urungwe or in Makone. That's again, it's not what is normal in Mashingo. So because of those differences that then exist, you see them also manifesting them, especially in the rainfall patterns that we get, or in the rainfall totals that we get throughout the country. Now, when you look at a review of last season, it is important to then say, sorry, looks like there is someone who's saying they cannot really hear. I hope I'm now a bit more audible. Saying, when you look at what transpired last season, the first thing is when we define the start of the rainfall season from the Met Services, we say it's any day after the 1st of October, and the place has to have recorded at least 20 millimeters in one or more days, and provided that there is no dry spell of 10 or more days within the next 30 days. And for us, we consider a rainy day as a day which has received at least 0.85 millimeters of rainfall. Now, the idea is 20 millimeters is applicable to some soils, but for some soils, you may actually use a threshold of 30 millimeters. This is because, especially at the start of the season, you need more rainfall for that soil to be wet in a crop that you are planting will actually be able to draw enough moisture for it to continue its development. So this is on average how the season started across the country. And you will notice that for much of the country, it was the period between the 17th to the 7th, or 17th of November to the 7th of December. While there are some places which actually recorded a late start, and for some, they had an early start, but then it was a fall receiving the continuous rains that we experienced last season. The season was then considered to have started. In terms of what we had actually focused, part A is what we had actually focused in terms of throughout the whole country, and part B of the image is what actually transpired. And you will notice that much of the country was actually in either the normal, which is the green, or at the above normal, which is the blue color. Then as compared to what we had focused, I think we missed it in one region, which is parts of Matabele North, parts of Bulawayo, a small part of Mat South, and also part of the Midlands and the extreme western part of Marsh West. Then for the season of October, November, December, or this was supposed to be January, February, March. Apologies in the labeling. So this one we had actually normal to above normal rainfall, and what later transpired was either normal conditions for much of the Mashona lands and also much of Manica land and part of Mat North and Midlands, while much of the southern parts of the country actually received above normal rainfall totals. In terms of the end of season, again, the dates, we had an early termination of the season with much of the country, the season mostly ending either early March or even in some places it was decade of February. And this had a bearing, especially for the late planted crop, which didn't receive adequate moisture for it to actually fully develop. The graph here is a brief analysis and a comparison of what transpired last season, as well as recent seasons, mostly the 2018, 2019 season, 2019, 2020, then the 2020, 2021, and the long-term average. Now, the highlighted areas actually indicate that for the 2020 to 2021 season, we had a peak in terms of our rainfall totals in the months of December and January, and there was a sharp decrease then in the month of February, but it was still quite considerable. Then when we get to March, this is where we had like quite a serious decrease with much of the season actually ending there. When we then go to as a summary of what transpired in the fortunately, we didn't have any dry spells, but instead we had long wet spells that were actually observed. And these, in some places, they actually went in excess of 80 days. Then the temporal and spatial distribution of rainfall, it was good, especially in the months of December, January, and February. This is part. Then we also noted that there were several storms of at least 50 millimeters, which were recorded in December, January, February. And this had the effect of also increasing incidence of waterlogging and leaching across most of the poorly drained fields. Even those with relatively good soils, they actually ended up having quite a lot of water in the fields as well. Then in terms of agricultural activities, we had a relatively good season as shown by what has been produced. Then for considerations going into the next rainfall season, it is important to then also look at, okay, what are the mean start of season dates? On average, when does the season start across much parts of the country? You will notice again, much of the country, it will be mostly from the second decade of November up to around the period up to and including 3 December. While the southern part of the country, it's usually a late onset. So this has a bearing, especially when you receive the early rains that we may sometimes receive, because based on what we have observed is there are times when you can receive these rains. Then the next thing that happens is we experience dry spells usually after those rains, and we have like something like a full start to that season. Then this map is what we use when we do our forecasting, how we then say, okay, these are our regions, and please note they are quite different from the agroecological zones, mostly because when we look at them, we are looking at the drivers, the climate drivers for those areas, and not necessarily the other parameters that are considered in the agroecological zoning. Then for the 2021-2022 season, we are looking at October, November, December. The first map actually indicates what we will refer to as the normals for the various places, while the second gives us the forecast. So we are looking at normal to above normal rainfall conditions throughout all the country, and mostly being driven by the idea that we have a forecast for La Nina conditions for the first half of the season. But you will notice that October, November, December traditionally doesn't have a lot of rainfall, with I think the highest rainfall areas recording between 360 to 460 millimeters, while areas around Bay Bridge thereabouts who record a highest valley of at most 150 millimeters. So this is our low rainfall part of the season. While when we move on to the part which is January, February, March, this is where we get our peak rainfall, even from the graphs that I had indicated earlier. And as a result, this is what also drives much of our production as well. So again, we are looking at normal to above normal rainfall conditions, mostly again being driven by the conditions that have been forecast, especially with regards to the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So observations within the Indian Ocean itself. So then in terms of considerations, I think we have already noted some of these observations as the season has actually started. Officially, our rainfall season starts from the 1st of October. So we start saying we are in the rainfall season, but in terms of agricultural activity, then we then say, did we receive effective rains or what? So we have already observed within the towns and also in some of the other areas. And these we usually have flash flooding occurring any time of the season. It's not just restricted to the start of the season, but it can also occur even when we have had quite a lot of rainfall and the soil is kind of like so soaked so that it cannot receive any more moisture. We have these incidents. Then lightning strikes. These we have also observed. I think last season we had an incident in Chipinge where a farmer lost at least 25 cattle. I think that was a Mr. Jube, and 25 cattle to a lightning strike. The hailstorms, my colleagues in Harare will actually remember that 2 weeks back, was it on a Monday or on a Tuesday, we actually had hail in the rains that we received. Yes, the rains were significant, but they also had hail. So we also get some of the damages. Then tropical cyclones, these are becoming quite common and also becoming a bit extreme as well. So we might be experiencing them again season, but we are still working on the forecast. It will be released later on this month. Then last season we actually had 3 tropical cyclones that actually went through Zim that affected us, 2 over us. Then another one, it ended up drying us out. So tropical cyclones usually have 2 effects: either they bring the rains upon us, or they actually dry us. They actually dry us out. So it just depends on the orient, some other parameters that we also observe. Then wind gusts and destructive winds, these we have also been observing. I think we have had issues in areas such as Manama already, Uganda, then even in Chipinge and some other areas across the country where we have had destruction occurring due to destructive winds. Then dry spells and heat waves. Dry spells can still occur even when we are hoping for a normal to above normal season. This time we are simply talking of the seasonal totals and not necessarily the distribution of the rain, but the distributions, these you can actually get from the short-term forecast. Then some of the other implications, we have the prevalence of waterborne diseases and malaria. This we have actually observed because once there is increased rainfall activity, we have more open unprotected water sources, and these are big breeding grounds for malaria. Then waterborne diseases is mostly due to the fact that when we're having rains, most people begin to use unprotected water sources. Then the increased risk of livestock diseases. I think a high rainfall season may actually imply even diseases such as foot rot and all those for the hooked animals become a topical issue. Then the issue of fertilizer stocks, I think we observed last season, there were quite serious incidents of fertilizer leaching of nutrients and the whole other issues around, mostly associated with high rainfall. So this is of the implications that we are also capturing. And as a result, construction of the appropriate contours and storm drains, so that we can actually be able to say, in the case where we have had excessive rains, we can be able to deal with that. Then water harvesting is important, especially for out of season agricultural activities. As I've noted an increase in horticulture. Even right now, people are still harvesting their winter wheat and what. So it's important to have those. Then, of course, dam levels are significantly high even at this moment in time. So we are expecting that the rains will also result in an increase in that. But this has the cumulative effect of also increasing the risk of dam breaches and also the risk of riverine flooding, especially downstream of the dams. We have risks of occurring. And I think I have come to the end of the presentation. We are trying to work on some other issues, especially what we are referring to the National Framework for Climate, Weather and Weather Services, mostly to try and understand some of the needs within the agricultural sector, so that it can actually be good for all of us. But otherwise, I think I'm done. Thank you very much. Cheers. I will try to. All right, I'll respond quickly to the question that I've seen in the question answer, where Ryan is asking, when is it advisable for farmers to start planting? I will say we cannot have a total, like the one size fits all advice, because this is mostly given by the idea that have the area that you are in actually received if enough for you to be able to plant. And also this it has also to be guided by the fact that are you actually getting the rains? After you have received the rains, are you going to be expecting some actually going forward? So at the moment, as we're looking at our models, we are mostly expecting some rains within the next towards the end of this decade, or mostly in the early part of the following decade. So this is where we are saying most of the places we might start to say we will be receiving effective rains from around that period. Also based on historical observations, in the sense that when you usually receive rains around that period, you don't usually get a long period where it will be dry. So it's still something that we are watching, and as soon as we have observed something, we'll always notify one another, because this information is critical, especially when it comes to planting. So I think that's where I will end for now. But if there are any further questions, I'm available to actually respond to this. And thank you. Back to you, Chieza.
Thank you so much for that great presentation from the MIT department. We were listening to the MIT agrometeorologist, Benjamin Kwenda. Thank you so much for that seasonal focused. Every farmer needs to know what type of weather conditions they are dealing with. It also helps with selection of the right varieties, which our head of agronomy, Miss Wendy Madzura, will talk more of as they give us the right varieties and the right planting times. Over to you, Wendy Madzura.
Thank you, Chieza.
So Benjamin, if you can stop sharing so that Wendy can begin to share.
Thank you, Chieza. Welcome everyone to our symposium, a well-timed event indeed, where we want to speak about issues to do with food security, making sure that we are having employees that are going to provide the service that they need to provide, because they'll be in the right frame of mind. So I'd just like to acknowledge the speakers that came before me, Mrs. Mutemererwa, for the well-detailed outline of what SIDCO is about in terms of continuous breeding of climate-smart varieties, where you alluded to the fact that we have new genetics that we have in the pipeline that are suited to the climatic conditions that we have, as well as the thrust that we are seeing by our farmers to increase productivity at household level and at a national level. I would like also to thank Dr. Chitagu, who went to detail about explaining issues to do with motivation of the employee in the workplace, where he mentioned that, in brief, what I got was that an angry man is a hungry man. So you don't want to end up having employees who are disgruntled, who are just there physically but not engaged in what you are doing, because it then affects the performance of the organization. So you want to keep your employees motivated as much as possible. Thank you very much, Doc, for that. And our all-weather friend, Mr. Kwenda, thank you very much for the presentation you gave us on the seasonal outlook, which then gives us a framework to feed into as we then discuss issues to do with summer season preparedness. So today my presentation is going to be centered mostly on the traits that we have on the SIDCO varieties that we have, as well as some of the crops that can be grown in summer, but it will be biased towards the maize crop, which is our staple crop here in Zimbabwe. So the outline of the presentation is as follows. I'll start by looking at the seed selection and planting tips. We'll then look at the selection of the right seed, what goes into that, what attributes are associated with the different genetics that SIDCO has on the market, the SIDCO product basket, where we'll then look at a holistic view of the products that SIDCO has outside of maize. We'll then talk about the maize profit story, where a guide in terms of a budget is going to be provided. But it wouldn't be complete if we don't discuss the agronomic practices that are going to unlock the genetic potential of these exceptional SIDCO genetics that are available on the market. So in farming for increased productivity, it's important for farmers to note that there are 1,000 reasons for low yields, but there are only 2 reasons for increased yield and increased productivity and profitability. This is using the right SIDCO seed that is in tandem with your agroecological region, guided by the seasonal forecast and guided by the resources that are available to you, and adopting good agronomic practices. So with the picture that we have in mind that has been painted by the Meteorological Services Department of a normal to above normal rainfall season, it goes without saying that the onus is on all the farmers and everyone to make sure that they prepare adequately for this coming season, as it's a promising one. So preparation should be guided by an understanding of the agroecological region in which one is based. By agroecological region, we mean an area of similar rainfall pattern, of similar climatic conditions that our farmers are going to be finding their agricultural activities mostly being done. So we have traditionally had 5 agroecological regions in Zimbabwe, where we have the region 1, which is a specialized and diversified region, where they receive a rainfall of greater than 1,000 millimeters. We then have region 2, which is subdivided into region 2A and 2B because of the differences in farming activities that can be associated with that region and the chances of them getting 750 to 1,000 millimeters of rainfall. We then have region 3, which is a semi-intensive farming region, which gets rainfall of between 650 to 800 millimeters, while our extensive farming region, which is region 5, gets less than 650 millimeters. So when the Meteorological Services Department speaks about a normal to above normal rainfall season, they mean that within the ranges of that agroecological zone, those farmers will expect to get that amount of rainfall within the range that they normally get, and slightly above that, guided by the way in which the season progresses, guided by the 10 to 3-day forecast that will be more accurate as we move into the season. So this is one thing that our farmers should understand. If it's said to be a normal to above normal rainfall season, yes, we have climate change, which in some cases might cause some differences and disparities in some areas, where you find that an area that did not get rainfall of about 1,000 millimeters can end up getting 1,000 millimeters in another season. That would be associated with issues to do with climate change. So it's important for us to understand our agroecological region, as it gives us a guide to prepare as we buy our seeds, as we buy our inputs for the farming season, so that we understand when and how we are going to plant as we get into the farming season. So the map that we are seeing there on the right is a map that is showing the proposed agroecological regions, which are revised, but we are yet to fully adopt these, as we will be guided by the powers that be, the Ministry of Agriculture and the ministries that are associated with the development of the new agroecological regions. So this was discussed last year in September, but we are yet to fully adopt it. So we are resorting to being guided by the seasonal, the agroecological regions that we are used to, the 5 agroecological regions that we have been using traditionally. So in terms of crop and variety selection, what are the things or the attributes that farmers should look at when they are selecting different crops for a cropping season, purely if it's going to be rain-fed agriculture? So selecting high-yielding varieties with defensive agronomic traits that are adopted to climatic, which are abiotic factors, and biotic conditions will also increase profitability and productivity for the farmer. So you need to look at the amount and distribution of rainfall, which has been discussed at great length by the Meteorological Services Department. And we have also come in to explain that these regions, the agroecological regions that we have, are also going to guide the amount of rainfall that is expected in your area, inside the normal to above normal range, which we are anticipating for the whole season in the 2 halves that we have from October, November to December, and the second half, January, February to March. So you also need to understand the length of the growing season, which, according to what we were hearing from Mr. Kwenda, it's something that is difficult to really ascertain when exactly the season is going to tail off, when exactly it's going to start. There's no one size fits all, but guided by the area in which we are doing our farming, the history, the trends, we can also make a decision guided by that in terms of the trends that we've been seeing, 3-5-year trends. They can also guide in terms of making informed decisions on when to plant, guided by when most likely the season is going to be tailing off. The altitude and air temperature also affects the crop that we're going to establish, as well as the rate of growth of that crop. Will it meet its time of physiological maturity in the window that is provided by the season? This is also guided by issues to do with the heat units, which from October, November to December, we experience 40% of our heat units during this time, which is to say that our farmers need to establish their crop on time so that they optimize on the growing degree days of their crops, so that they also get optimum value and optimum productivity. The altitude and air temperature, it also speaks to issues to do with the area in which you are going to be farming. If you are going to be growing a 700 series in an area like region 4 or region 5, maybe you have supplementary irrigation. So if you're going to be growing it there, you need to understand that the days to maturity are going to be faster there, because it's an area of low altitude, and it's an area of higher heat units. So you're also going to experience a higher rate of growth. But if that same crop is established in region 1, in Mount Selinda there, in areas where there is the temperatures are lower, it's also going to take longer to reach maturity. So this then guides the cropping program that a farmer has, if they are into multiple cropping or double cropping. So we need to be guided accordingly. The soil fertility and fertilizer management we'll speak about as we get to that. And the planting dates, we also need to understand issues to do with plant dates, where nowadays they talk about increasing populations. Is it beneficial? Do we still need to increase populations if we are not getting value out of the increased populations and incurring extra costs? Food for thought, but we are going to discuss that further as we get into the agronomic practices. For now, we want to delve into the variety selection. Variety selection at SEEDCO is something that we take as something that is very, very important for us. We need to understand that at SEEDCO, we have a very wide product basket. Our product basket is endowed with a lot of varieties that are suited to every agroecological region. So as you have rightfully heard, the story it sits well with what we are discussing today, where we are saying if a farmer is going to be establishing a crop in an area like region 4 or region 5, we have ultra early maturing varieties like the one you are seeing on the screen there, SC301. We also have another flagship in that maturity group, SC303. These varieties of note is the fact that they will mature in 90 to 120 days, plus or minus, depending on the altitude, the heat unit, and the management. So this is something for you to consider, to understand that within 3.5, 4 months, 5 months, you will be already at physiological maturity and harvesting your crop. So for these varieties, we tend to refer to them as drought escape varieties, where in the event that the rains tail off quite early, you are also going to harvest your crop and not be found wanting. So SC301 is available. It's a crop that is short statured, and our farmers can then put in higher plant populations of up to 60,000 plants per hectare, because it doesn't lodge in the field. But we also see that it has a yield potential of up to 10 tons per hectare. So it doesn't necessarily follow that if a variety is going to mature earlier, it's also going to give lower yields. But it's to do with what we have termed the top left approach, where we are saying that we have reduced the days to maturity for our varieties, but not compromising on the yield as we mitigate against the effects of climate change. 403, a very early maturing variety. This variety here, we are seeing that it's a variety that has been on the market for a while. It has been grown extensively, and it has a wide regional adaptation. But over the years, owing to issues to do with climate change and the development of new diseases, this variety has been outshined by the new varieties that we have released, which are more climate smart, more drought tolerant, as well as higher yielding varieties that you are going to be seeing as we discuss further. So 403 is one of the varieties that we have known extensively. We have grown it. It will still perform well, but there is a new flagship in that basket, SC419, which has a yield potential of up to 11 tons per hectare. SC419 has a closed tip, which is to say that if you look at the crop that is being held there by our farmers, this is from the harvest from this year in Mutoko, and it was on a Pumvudza plot. So if you can look at that picture there, you can see that that farmer will be smiling all the way to the bank, to GMB, or even to the granary if they are going to be storing their grain for future use. Just check out the cob size and the closed tip. It also shows that it gives grain right up to the tip, and also it protects it from late rains that might come in later on in the season. So this is our flagship, our very early maturing variety, SC419. It's a blockbuster that we have that you can also establish, and it will mature within 117 to 128 days, plus or minus, depending on the factors that are going to be surrounding the period in which you are going to be producing it. Then moving on, we also have SC51. We have SC402, where we are seeing that SC402 is a yellow maize variety. And there was a question in the chat box there asking about issues to do with the availability of yellow maize. And yes, nowadays, since there's talk about increasing livestock production as we diversify our agricultural activities, yellow maize is another crop of choice. SC402 is readily available. Our farmers can get it, but we are also making efforts to increase our basket in terms of the yellow maize varieties that are going to be availed, as you'll be hearing as we get into the coming seasons, where we'll have new varieties that are going to be registered in the yellow maize varieties to complement the SC402 that we currently have and the SC608, which you're going to see as we get to that maturity group. But the yield potential of SC402 is 9 tons per hectare. It's a good variety producing a sizable cob. Then moving forward, we have SC513, a variety that everyone has had some history with. I know and I understand that at some point we had to plant this variety during the Christmas period when we visited the village during the Christmas window. But most people have seen that this variety was a variety of choice. It was an elastic variety that performed in a wide range of environments. But over the years, given the advent of new technologies, SIDCO has developed new genetics that are climate smart, innovative, and suited to the climatic conditions that we are seeing. Also, on top of that, they are adding value in terms of increasing yield levels and the attributes that were not present in the SC513 that we were used to. So which varieties are these? We have SC 529 is a variety that we also have in this basket, but this one that we are seeing, the blockbuster SC555. SC555 has really brought some value to the farmers who have established it over the past 2 seasons, in the sense that it has an extra large sized cob. It also has a good tip cover and a drooping effect in the event that there are late rains. The incidence of cob rots will not occur easily because it will droop and face downwards. So this is something of our farmers should also note. And it will also be something that should be prudent for us when we are buying seed for our families, for our relatives, for our rural homes, for our backyards, to consider buying SC555 and see the value that we get out of it, because it will surely outshine the SC513 that we have had on the market for long. But yes, we do understand that change is difficult. So one of the ways in which you can instigate change is for you to have the traditional variety that you are used to established on one block. Then you also get the new variety on another block, so that you can really appreciate the values that are coming with the new varieties. You will really appreciate that this is a drought-tolerant variety, as it is also, it has a stay green gene, which also enables it to photosynthesize for longer, even in periods of moisture stress, giving you yields of up to 12 tons per hectare. Then we move on to the Desert Walker, a Pan-African variety, which has been given this nickname Desert Walker because of its drought tolerance. Why? Because it's a bulky leafy variety, which has the ability to withstand periods of moisture stress like mid-season dry spells. So it's a variety of choice. It will give you a yield of up to 14 tons per hectare. But in that product basket, over the past 3 seasons, we have unleashed blockbusters that also are going to add value to your farming enterprises. We have SC659. This variety has performed well for those farmers with different cropping programs, from green mealies, silage to grain production. It gives a yield of up to 15 tons per hectare. This variety here, at some point, we got some inquiries from farmers who were saying this variety is growing very tall. Is it going to produce any cobs? But it's a variety that is bred with tolerance to lodging despite its height, and also the height also contributes to the yield that you're going to get. So it's also important for us to understand that SC659 is a variety of choice. It is also a variety that most farmers who do double cropping are opting for, because it gives them a reasonably high yield of up to 15 tons per hectare under optimum management, and they can still come in with their wheat crop on time and harvest their wheat crop on time for the next cropping program. Because in farming, any action that you do or any delay that you have tasked or that you have in your cropping program is going to have a ripple effect on the other programs. So you also need to make an informed decision. So SC659 is available for the taking. But we did not just end there at Sitco. We also went a step further to develop new varieties that also speak to particular needs that are associated with climate change, where we find that the nature of the seasons that we are getting, where we can have persistent rains that do not give us an opportunity to go into the field to spray or even bring risks of high disease pressure. SC661 is the cleanest 600 series variety that we have, with a high tolerance to leaf rust diseases, while SC657 is the most drought tolerant variety that we have, which can even be established in those areas like region 2B, region 3, or some regions where traditionally a 600 series could not be grown, because it has a very high tolerance to moisture stress, periods of moisture stress, provided the window from planting to maturity still fits within the growing season that is anticipated for that year. Then we also have SC608, which is a yellow flagship, which has been termed the firecracker on the market because of its ability to produce tasty, shiny, golden green mealy crops that are favorable on the green mealy market. So this is also suitable even for silage or for grain, and it's a variety that can give up to 13 tons per hectare. And like we have already mentioned, the yellow maize product basket is going to be broadened as we move forward. Then we also have now the highest yielding varieties on the market. We have SC719 and SC727. With SC719 being the most drought tolerant in that maturity group, the yield potential is well above 16 tons per hectare. By yield potential, we mean the potential of that variety under optimum conditions, which is to say that the farmer needs to understand their break-even point, and make sure that at any point they are incurring a profit. The important thing to understand in farming is that if you're going to produce 10 tons on 1 hectare, if someone else is going to produce 5 tons on that same hectare, and the person who's going to produce 1 ton on that same hectare, those people are also going to get different returns in terms of their value. So it's important for us to understand the return per dollar invested, guided by the maximum management and agronomic practices employed in any cropping venture. So SC719 is a product of choice. We were having some good reviews of this 719, not only in Zimbabwe, but in other African countries where it's performing exceptionally well. And the farmers were quite happy at a communal level and the commercial level, which is to say Seedco is really the African seed company of choice. So SC719 will give very high yields. It also is a good variety in terms of silage because it's a bulky and leafy variety, which can then give you yields of well above 60 tons per hectare for silage. Silage yields, suffice to say that it encompasses everything. It's not only just the cob yield, but it's everything that is going to be harvested, the stalks, the leaves. That's why it gets to yields of about 60 to 70 tons per hectare. But the yield potential is well above 16 tons per hectare for the grain that you're going to get from SC719. It also has an excellent tip cover, which then also protects during periods of late rains and mitigates the risk of crop rots. SC727 is another variety that has really taken the industry by storm. It is the top performing variety of choice. Under optimum management, it will give you yields of above 16 tons per hectare. The yields are comparable between 727 and 719, with the difference being that 719 is more drought tolerant than 727, and also 719 tends to have a higher a closed tip as opposed to 727 with an open tip. So just in summary, these are the traits for our varieties, the key important traits where we have just highlighted the days to maturity, we've highlighted the yield potential, as well as the plant population at which these varieties can be established for optimum yields. So you find that 301, it can be established at an optimum population 50 to 60,000 plants per hectare. Suffice to say that it can go above that because it's short-statured. But the important thing with plant populations is to understand and do a cost-benefit analysis first before anyone ventures into increasing plant populations, as this also has an influence on the return per dollar invested that you're also going to get on your cropping venture. So these are the varieties that we were speaking to detail about. This is the summary of what you expect to get from them. They are available on the market. The only thing that you need to understand is that Seedco seed is like hot buns. So hot buns sell very fast from the shelf. So you need to hurry while stock lasts. Otherwise, everyone is trying to make sure that they get their seed and purchase their seed on time before the rain starts and avoid the stampede or the rush hour. So this is the budget that we are seeing here, where it also, the budget then speaks to the issues to do with other elements that are going to be associated in your cropping program, where you find that it's not only just issues to do with your seed, your fertilizer program is also there, where you find that, believe it or not, 28% of the cost is not on seed, it's on fertilizer, where you're going to apply 6 to 8 bags of a basal fertilizer and about 6 to 8 bags of a top dressing fertilizer, amounting to about 56% of the total cost of your cropping program in maize production. This cropping program that we are looking at is for a high management farmer, where we are saying that all factors held constant as a guide, this farmer can get yields of say 10 tons per hectare and get a return per dollar invested of around $2.40 for every dollar that they will have invested. The cost of production will range from $1,000 to $1,100 and then the selling price there that was used to generate this budget, it was also guided by the selling cost that we had this year, but at a rate of 120 at the time when the maize production was done. But just to say that a budget guide is meant to do what the name suggests, to guide you as you feed in your unique circumstances of where you're going to be getting your inputs, so that it then makes sense into your cropping program. But as a guide, you will have known that you need a basal dressing, you need a top dressing, a pre-emergent herbicide, a top dressing, a post-emergent herbicide, an insecticide, a fungicide. You need land preparation, you need something to harvest with, and you also need to come in with irrigation, supplementary irrigation, if it is also allowable at your cropping program. So the higher the yield you get, the higher the return per dollar invested, and also it reduces your cost structure. Then looking at soybean. Soybean is one of the other crops that we encourage our farmers to take on as a crop of choice, because it is a cash crop. And nowadays there's more talk about doing agriculture more sustainably. So it also sits well with rotation farming, where we are saying that yes, soybean over the years, it has been known to be grown extensively by commercial farmers, but now we are speaking about the fact that there is power in numbers. So our small scale farmers, who constitute about 80% of our farming community, imagine if they just embarked on just an acre or a Pfumvudza plot of soybean. It goes a long way in increasing productivity at a national level, and it also enables us to meet our national requirement for soybean. So our varieties for soybean, we have determinate, SC status. Indeterminate varieties, we have SC Serenade, Safari, and Spike. The difference between a determinate and indeterminate variety is the fact that the determinate variety, once flowering starts, it then ceases to grow, but an indeterminate variety can still grow more leaves and grow taller even after flowering starts. So an indeterminate variety would be suitable when we want to also mitigate the effects of climate change, where we might have some periods of stress. So you'd also want a variety that can also come in with measures to also mitigate that risk. But SC status is a short-statured variety that we also advocate highly for. It is the most drought-tolerant one that we have on the market. So SC Serenade, SC Safari, and SC Spike are the indeterminate varieties of choice. SC Spike having given very high yields over the past years of up to 5 tons per hectare. So the average yield that a farmer can get in maize can range from 2.5 to 3.5 tons per hectare, guided by good agronomic practices. In terms of sugar bean, some of the varieties that we have in sugar bean are going to be alluded to when we get the presentation from our Sitco vegetables. So we will not look into detail in terms of sugar bean, but we want you to know and understand that Sitco has sugar bean varieties of choice. Then for sorghum, as we also then mitigate the effects of climate change, we are talking about crop diversity. So we do have sorghum varieties. We have red sorghum, we have white sorghum, but white sorghum is the one that we also really want to advocate for, because it's the edible one. It's not like the red sorghum, which is only for beer brewing. So if you don't have a contract, you might fail to then sell it off or offload it. So it's important for us to also then spread our risk by growing crops that are drought tolerant, like sorghum. White sorghum is available. SC Sila is available at a very affordable price, where you would just need about 5 to 10 kgs to establish a hectare. So this is something that you also need to consider. But as we go forward, Sitco does not have a parochial way of thinking. We also want to think outside the box. Even better still, think without even considering a box. There's no box to even think about. So we want to think of other cropping ventures that we can look into, other crops that we can also avail to the market, as we also speak to the feeding trends and feeding habits that are being spoken about globally, where we are seeing that by 2050, 2040, feeding habits will have changed. So we also need to align, and the population is expected to increase by 2030, by 2050. So we also need to align, because one thing that is constant is change itself. So it's important for us to understand that as things change, people will still need to eat, people will still need clothes to wear. So the industry, the agricultural industry, will remain relevant, and food production will remain pivotal as we work towards alleviation of hunger and poverty alleviation, as we also speak to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are meant to be attained by 2030. So just in conclusion, we also need to understand that good agronomic practices need to be employed, where we have a wide range of things that you need to think about. So good agronomic practices, fancy as the name might sound and short as it might sound, it encompasses a lot of things, where you find that your soil pH, your soil acidity, your soil nutrient constitution is important. At this point, it's a bit late for the lime to really be effective, but if the field is ours, we are going to be using it again in the coming seasons. There's no harm in us doing soil analysis and understanding the nature in which our soil is in, so that we can also come in with supplementary fertilizers if there is any need. For example, if the pH is quite low, then the uptake of nutrients will be affected. So we also need to come in with mitigatory measures guided by soil analysis. So we continue to advocate for soil analysis, as this is the surest way for us to get value out of our cropping venture and maximum fertilizer use efficiency. Did you know that you might apply 10 bags of fertilizer and only 2 to 3 bags, which is to say 20 to 30% of that fertilizer works because of the acidity of the soil? So this is something that we really need to take note of and understand the different types of soil conditioners that are available on the market. Land preparation is something quite topical. Most farmers are tasked with land preparation at this time. It can be conventional, it can be conservation, but we are also advocating for conservation tillage as we move hand in glove with sustainable agriculture initiatives to minimize tillage. It also means that there is less pulverization of the soil structure as we also work towards safeguarding and nurturing our environment for future generations. So we need to be guided anytime that we want to embark on conservation tillage by 3 principles. So the principles are minimum soil disturbance, permanent ground cover, live mulch or mulching if you're going to collect mulch for the Pumvudza concept, rotations, these need to guide us. So if you are, the misconception that is there is that conservation is for resource constrained farmers only, but also resource endowed farmers can also embark on conservation by getting the correct implements like no-till or strip-till planters, which are also going to sit well with their cropping program. But we find that conventional tillage has been in the farming system for a while and our farmers still use it. The important thing is for us to also then incorporate the crop residue into our land preparation so that it also builds on the organic matter and improves the soil structure. So on planting tips, we need to plant with the effective rains. As we have heard from our meteorological services a spokesperson here, Mr. Kwenda, who said that we need to understand that when we get rains of in excess of 35 millimeters within a period of 3 days, then we can start speaking about having received effective rains, because we don't want a scenario where you just plant with the very first rains and then there is a dry spell, a prolonged dry spell that affects the process of germination and emergence, thereby making your crop germination process not effective, and then it affects your crop stand. So one other important thing to note at planting is the fact that if you are going to plant when it has rained effectively, your planting depth, it can be guided by that crop that you're going to be establishing. If you're going to plant before the rain starts, some farmers want to plant early, even before any moisture is there on the ground. For those farmers, you need to put your seed at a deeper depth of about 5 to around 6-7 centimeters, so that you avoid those light showers that are going to come from affecting the germination process, whereby your seed will imbibe some moisture but fail to fully germinate. Then when you are doing your land preparation, make sure that you get a good seed to soil contact, which then effectively results in good germination. Then we also talk about issues to do with planting. You need to plant on time. The earlier you plant, the better it is in terms of your yield, because you optimize on the yield levels. And it also speaks to the different varieties with their different maturity groups, where that graph there, colorful as it is just telling you the story of what we have summarized earlier about the differences in the days to maturity, guided by the area in which you are going to be establishing a crop. Fertility management should be guided accordingly, where you also need to understand that you need to select the right type of fertilizer, the right quantities, the right time, and you also need to understand that that colorful picture we are seeing of those leaves with different shades, we do not want to see in a field. We only want to see a dark green, lush, shiny leaf in the field. That is the ideal scenario. So all those other colors show deficiency, so we need to guard accordingly. Then basal fertilizer needs to be applied as a base, as the name suggests. So all compound fertilizer, blend fertilizer that is meant to be applied at planting needs to be applied at planting. We need to move away from what we traditionally do, whereby our farmers then come in with the compound X, which they apply at 6 weeks after planting. At that time, what the basal fertilizer should have done was promote root development because of the high phosphorus level, but it will fail to do that because of the timing that you will have applied it. So apply a basal fertilizer at planting and a top dressing fertilizer accordingly. So for a basal fertilizer, you need to understand the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash constitution that is there, which also speaks to what you are availing to your crop. Don't buy fertilizers by name or by color of bag. You need to understand the nutrient constitution that is inside so that you are buying nutrients, not only a name. Then on top dressing fertilizers, if it's AN, you need to split apply it because it also tends to be to leach beyond the root zone, especially if we have persistent rains. So you need to split apply it. In sandy soils, you split maybe 2 to 3 times. In clay soils, maybe just 2 times should suffice. But urea, when you're using urea, you also need to make sure that it's covered when you apply it on the top of the soil, because it will be taken up into the atmosphere through volatilization. So you do not want to lose your fertilizer to something that could have been avoided. Yes, there are now some coated fertilizers that are available, but they might not be readily available. So if you're using urea, the standard one that we have on the market, you need to cover it to avoid the risk of it being taken up into the atmosphere and not working. And understand that urea is very harsh. You need to apply it when there's ample moisture on the ground or when it is just rained, so that it also quickly dissolves and also then does what it's meant to. Then as we move towards our last 3 slides, this is the ideal scenario that we want in terms of weed management. Weeds compete actively for growing space with our crops, so we need to make sure that we manage that. So we need that ideal scenario there is what we want. So weed selection should be guided by the weed herbicide selection should be guided by the weed spectrum, stage of growth, rotation, and cost. Then in terms of insect pest management, you need to understand the problematic insect pests in any cropping venture before you get into it, so that you are prepared and you are not found wanting. And in maize, fall armyworm is that problematic pest that you need to control timeously for you to control it effectively. So in conclusion, there are 1,000 reasons, more than 1,000 reasons, ladies and gentlemen, for crop failure, but only 2 reasons for success: the right seed and the adoption of good agronomic practices. Where in our good agronomic practices, we find that the issues that we were hearing from the Meteorological Services Department and all the other agronomic practices that we have touched briefly here, they contribute to increasing value in your cropping venture. So an employee's motivation is a direct result of the sum of the interactions with his or her manager. So it's important for us to understand that as employees and as individuals in our own capacity, we have the right to make sure that someone else also gets value out of what they are doing, and they also get the benefits that we can also avail to them to make their work experience much better. You need to also understand that Sitco has different cropping selling platforms that you can buy from, where you can buy our seed online, and you need to also make sure that you are guided by the COVID regulations as we continue to fight with the pandemic. On that note, I would like to thank you all for the time provided.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wendy Madzura, our head of agronomy. I will repeat again what she said. Every bumper harvest story starts with the right seed, and it's coupled by good agronomic practices. The right seed, the right seed, the right seed. As you bring in your corporate orders, the great thing is that we have Wendy. She'll be available. Wendy and her team are more than available and more than willing to assist us to make sure and ensure that we follow these good agronomic practices. She's more than available to help us with the right seed selection. So bring in your corporate orders. We have Wendy and her team. They're already waiting to assist us, ensuring that we get the right seed for our agrological regions. So, as she has already alluded to, our product basket is quite wide. We do not only deal with sada, but for every sada meal, we need the relish. So we are going to move over to our vegetable section, Masimba Kanyepi, who's the sales manager for our Seedco vegetables, to tell us the vegetable story. Over to you, Masimba.
Okay, thank you so much, Cheza and Wendy and all the delegates here. Yes, like what Cheza has highlighted, definitely, yes, we are the SADZA Nemuriwo combination. So in this presentation, I would like just probably to let you know that with vegetables, that's the easiest thing that one can make money out of. You can plant a crop today, and you can count 24, 25 days, you're already harvesting, already starting to make money. That's if we talk about the red rampant. I don't know, Chieza, if my presentation is coming through.
Yes, we can see your presentation, Masimba.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks. So just probably to just give a background to this Seedco employee support scheme. I'm sure we are all talking about something that has already happened in this company. If we look at the board gases employees who came here last year and they were in a jovial mood, it shows how some of these companies are trying to make their employees happy and empowering their employees. As Seedco vegetables, we believe that the only means of helping the employee out is through sustenance. We create future employment after the current employment, which is very, very key. We don't want our employees to then look like destitutes after they've left your organizations. And we don't want them to continue coming to you begging for more, to say, we feel like the salary that we are now getting is too small. But if you get in touch or if you partner Seedco, we are there together to empower our employees. And how to make the employee fall in love with you. It's all about empowering him. As you can see that picture, I don't know if that picture is coming through, whereby our Seedco team there at the research station is trying to empower those board gases employees, trying to teach them on how to transplant or plant our crops there at our research station. And the scope is transforming our employees to employers through horticulture, equipping vegetable farmers or these employees and other key stakeholders with key genetics of the Seedco vegetable hybrids. Best vegetable production practices, like what Wendy was hammering more to say, good agronomic practices are key to any production. Pushing the hybrid agenda in Zimbabwe, and for all of you to know that our hybrids are exclusive to Seedco. What is needed here? Need to know the vegetable farming is easily a teachable profession that can easily contribute to one's monthly income. Need to know or unpack the potential of our hybrid basket. Need to trial a small piece of land, then you will discover. Here I'm talking to these backyard farmers as well. Remember, our employees, some are based in towns or in urban cities, whereby they just have a small piece, which is the backyard. So we would want them to unpack or discover in those small pieces of land what they can actually achieve. And they should also, they need to know the basic ideas of the pests and diseases. They need to know the return on investment, which is key in all our farming activities. What is it that we are going to get in return? And for that, I can assure you, all of you here, by end of this presentation, you are going to be presenting your orders to us and say, Masimba, this is what we want, because I will show you a lucrative, simple farming business model. Empowering, like those are like give a man a fish and you feed him one day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him many times. This is like what I'm just trying to reiterate, to say, let's not say, you need some increments. This is $50 more or extra. No, let's try to teach our employees on how to fish so that at least they will feed themselves so many times. Like there, as you can see again, my sister Wendy trying to teach some of these board gases employees on how to transplant. That's a seedling which is, she's holding on. What is key with the vegetables is to know the seasonal calendar, how it operates, what is grown in this particular time of the year. Is it rape? Is it an all year, winter, or which is very key for our farmers or all the stakeholders here. If you can have your calendar is one of your Bibles with you, then you are so much guided on what to put and what the market wants at a particular time of the year. So that calendar is key for you to know when to direct sow or when to transplant your crops, especially if you look at our vegetable basket. What are hybrids? This just to explain to you that why are we more onto the hybrids? This is where the money is. We can't continue to be talking about the open pollinated varieties, where the yield and the quality of the crops that we produce. We just have to move with the moving times, whereby we preach hybrid. So they combine the best traits of their parents. They were developed through controlled cross-pollination. They exhibit hybrid vigor and superior performance, high yield, productivity, higher returns from your investments, uniformity of traits. That's, we talk of size, shape, color. If you talk of color, we are referring to those carrots that you can see there. Growth vigor, that's health crops, pest and disease resistance. Yes, most products in the hybrid range, they have got a strong disease package, improved quality, that's flavor and nutrition as well as taste. Why Seedco hybrids? Better adaptation, soil and climatic conditions, high longevity, field holding and shelf life. When we talk of shelf life, we are saying, how long does these products that we produce from hybrids last, especially on the shelf, when we take them to our food lovers or whichever markets that we'll be selling through? Fit to production conditions. Is it an indoor variety or in open in open field variety? Suited for which target markets? Are we talking of fresh markets or processing or even both markets? And there, we talk of now the soil fertility and analysis, good soil preparation, quality seedlings, health, crop, adequate irrigation. That's more to do with our best practices. If we don't carry out some of these issues, which I'm sure Wendy has highlighted earlier on, then we are not going to achieve the required yields. Plant population. What I have done in this presentation, which I will share with you, Chiesa, so that you can share with all these with the delegates. Remember, this is like a 55 slide PowerPoint presentation. I would like them to know how to achieve the required plant population, especially per hectare or in whatever area which the farmer is intending to produce. Some of these formulas will help you to calculate the required plants and the seed rate which is required for each particular area, so that at least the farmer will exactly achieve the right population, the right plant population. Otherwise, we don't want farmers who plant a hectare of, when you talk of a hectare, that's exactly as the football pitch. But what sort of plant population would one get if you want to plant cabbages in such an area? That's 35,000. But some can easily put 15,000 heads of cabbages in that area of a football pitch. Then they are celebrating that I've done a hectare. No, you've actually done half a hectare, but using more resources instead of the resources required for the 15,000 plants that you had planted. So in our basket, we talk of the greenhouse tomatoes, which are mainly the indeterminate varieties. We have got an excellent variety, which we call Oasis F1, which is very vigorous, days to maturity 70 days, and it can even be earlier depending with how you would manage your temperatures in your greenhouse. Fruit weight size around 200 grams, bright red quality fruit, uniform round, smooth, stack, open field, and greenhouse. Again, those are some of the disease, the disease package where we say it's very, very key now to opt for these hybrid varieties. And we have got some other varieties like Alhambra, Candela F1, which are also indeterminate. The same days to maturity as Oasis when we talk of Candela, but Alhambra coming in a little bit late with 90 days, or with vigorous and good leaf cover. Indeterminate varieties with good leaf cover, that's where the yields start. So you would want farmers to opt for these varieties, as we know that the food that feeds the fruits comes from the leaves. The varieties or plants that do not give us the leaf cover, then the fruits will be deprived of, will be deprived of the much needed nutrition. We move on to the power of the seed code genetics, just to share with you how some of these varieties like Oasis can yield or can produce. As you can see, those fruits there coming in from, this is a greenhouse, which is in Marlborough here in Harare, whereby a farmer is actually testifying how the variety is performing. I don't know if you can see the footage is coming. I'm sure the volume might be a problem, but you can see the fruits.
Takati atina mundu but tine backyard yakakura saka takatsvaga single greenhouse yedu 300 square meters.
So what I will do, I will share this clip with Chieza. She can also share it with you so that at least you can have an appreciation of this variety called Oasis. And these are other new varieties which are coming in, like tomato Amao, which is like a gem tomato, which we have just launched, and another jackpot variety again, which is yielding 100 tons plus per hectare, 70 to 80 days. And Akela, another variety, again, yielding also over 100 to 120 tons per hectare. And Big Rock, this variety is exciting. It is the Big Rock in the sense that a lot of farmers or those Mbare guys have been complaining that the tomatoes that we are getting can easily be damaged, but with Big Rock, nothing of that sort now farmers will experience. We have come up with the solution to their problem. Then, and these other field, open field tomato, this basket has been there before, but with those other new varieties which I've mentioned earlier on, we are keeping on improving on our basket so that at least we are not left behind. Those are the likes of daisy, which we normally push farmers to grow in the rain season, and coming in with all kinds of fruit sizes, being extra large, large, small, and Nash, a variety which doesn't need much of trellising, cheaply, which is both for your processing and fresh market. Petra Rosa, processing variety, which the likes of BFP or Canes would want. HTX, again, another processing variety, which can do also as fresh. So as you can see, our tomato basket is very huge. And what is very key are the days to maturity on those varieties, which they just range from about 70 to 85 days to maturity where you start harvesting. And the yield potential, as you can see, ranging from even 100 up to 180 tons per hectare from each indeterminate variety which is coming through your screen. And that is the tomato production whereby we talk of spacing, in-row spacing, for you or for us to be able to achieve the required plant population as well as the yields which I have been talking about earlier on. And in cabbages, we have just launched a new variety called SCV Majesty F1, as well as the Daphne. These varieties are also giving us head sizes of around 5 to about 7 kgs. And we hope that with this rainy season, they will also be able to sell through. Remember, in some of in rain season, most varieties, they struggle. They end up with these other diseases, which are a challenge to the quality of our heads. Like again, the existing basket of our cabbages ranging from Fabiola, Delight, Mancanta, and Daphne F1, which is a Savoy cabbage. All these are available at Sitco Vegetables for you farmers to just come and grab, and they are good to go. And the cabbage production guide, again, like I've said, it is also there whereby we we recommend farmers to adopt or to use the recommended spacing for them to be able to achieve a plant population. Some they range from 33, 35 up to 40,000 plants per hectare. And that's another clip again, just to show you the informity of our varieties, like I had said earlier on, where a 99% informity of heads will make a farmer realize more profit because there will be no losses. Remember, when these customers come to buy cabbages, they will first identify the bigger heads. And if it is about 50% of bigger heads and 50% of smaller or whatever, then that's lost to the farmer. And again, we have got in our basket some cornflowers. We also do these crops, mainly they are for for winter season, but we are trying to come up with some varieties that can suit our summer seasons as well. And the same as broccolis, mainly winter, but we have now come up with a variety that can do in summer, which is called Corato F1, which can mature in 70 days, giving us about 425 grams per head. And this variety is also good for your fresh market and processing as well. So those are the guidelines for your production, especially on the interrow spacing and so for the broccolis, where we should be able to achieve about 45 to almost 60,000 plants per hectare. With the butternut, again, we have got a lovely basket of our butternut, of our squash butternuts, whereby we talk of processing as well as fresh market. In this basket, we've got granite F1, prison F1, Ultra, which is mainly for your processing, giving us fruit size of over 5 to 8 kgs per each fruit. And that's huge. That's why they are mainly for your processing. But for those sizes, mainly for the smaller sizes, you can go for your granite and prism, ranging from 800 grams to about 1.6 kgs in weight from each fruit. Fine bean basket, again, we have got 3 varieties, Moonstone, Salima, and Momami, all giving us lovely color, especially depending on the market that one would want to focus. There are some markets which prefer light green. There are some markets which prefer the darker greens. The presentation would be also making it clear, especially if you look at Moonstone and Salima, they are dark green, light green coming in from our Lomami. Cucumbers, again, another interesting basket, whereby we talk of the Dreamliner, which is our English cucumber, maturing in about 60 days, depending with the conditions. Some, they can actually start harvesting at about 45 to 55 days, and giving us around 33 to about 39 centimeters long in our fruit sizes. And apart from this greenhouse variety, we also do Olympian and Stonewall, which are open field varieties, which are very key to some of these markets. Remember, Vanofarira, Jokugocha, the Merek types of market where the ordinary cucumber is normally used. Watermelons, we have got a very exciting variety called Keto F1, vigorous, high yielding, 200 tons, easily achievable, maturing 70 to 80 days, fruit weight ranging from 8 to about 12 kgs. And this variety with deep crimson granular flesh, very sweet, and it's spread, again, light green and dark strips, with less seed. That's what the people who like watermelon prefer fruits that do not have a lot of seed. As you can see there, sharing some lighter moments with our at the research station, whereby we were showcasing all these other varieties, but Keto F1 coming out tops. That's why it was then quickly commercialized. And peppers, again, an exciting basket. We talk of Equals and Red Prime. These are all red peppers. And again, as you know, all peppers, they started green, but I had noticed that farmers would want to buy green peppers and then hope that they will turn green or yellow when they take long to harvest. No, these are varieties which can only start at green and turn red. Then with yellow, they also start from green and then they turn yellow, whereby we have varieties like Solano and Springbok. Again, 75 days to maturity. Fruit, they've got fruit, which is very, very firm, bright yellow and sweet. Onion, like now, this is the time whereby a clever farmer or a farmer who is organized will start to search where he or she can buy onion seed for him to be able to start or prepare his seedlings in December, early January, thereabout. And the varieties that we have, Ada F1, Elad, Dina, Saturn, Regent are all brown, except for the Neptune, which is red, and they are all drying varieties. Onion production guide is there for you, which I will share with you for you to be able to achieve between 80 to 100 tons. It's very key to make sure that you follow the spacing which is recommended. Onion sowing time again is there, whereby with those varieties which I have been showing you, there's a particular sowing period that each variety suits. So it will be very key for each and every farmer to follow these guidelines so that he or she achieves the yields. Because if you don't follow the sowing periods of these varieties, then the yields won't come. General agronomic of vegetables, that's a guide which I will also share with you through Chieza, whereby tomato spacing, in-row depth when sowing, seeds required per hectare, etc. And this can also apply to the OPV as well. The diseases that we normally encounter or face in most vegetables are clearly indicated there in their codes, which I would also think that as these farmers want to venture into farming, it is always key for them to know the diseases that they might come across so that they know what to apply. The pulses basket, like what Wendy has said earlier on, this is where we share with you our sugar bean basket, whereby we have got the Niku.Locot Gadra sugar bean, which matures in 55 to 65 days. This is a very exciting variety with a yield potential of about of almost 3.5 tons. And this variety is now readily available. And what I've done, I'm sure I've come up with a budget, which I will show you at the end of my presentation, which I would want all of us to try and see the magic with this variety. Maturing in 55 days, it's unbelievable. Ukulinka, another red speckled sugar bean variety, which can mature in 75 to 85 days. Then in our stable, we now have the NUA 45, high in iron and zinc, and with the yields of up to about 3 tons per hectare, but red in color with a little bit of those white strips. Cowpeas, yes, we still have our CBC2 or IT18 with yield potential of around 4,500 kgs per hectare, but efforts are being made to come up with a hybrid seed variety on that basket. That's where I want all of us now to focus more. Yes, I am now trying to sell to you, and I know I'll win your hearts. I have come up with a mini gross margin budget, which can, I'm sure it's enough for about 0.3 of a hectare. So you employers or the companies that are in this symposium, by just looking at that budget or gross margin, it will clearly show that vegetable production is the way to go. That's why I was saying we can easily transform our employees into employers. If you look at the tomato days F1, and this combo, I'm actually selling it to you right now. Tomato days F1 with just 1,000 seeds, the price of that seed packet is about $27. And other inputs required, they can total to about $78. Total input cost, $105, that's inclusive of your seed. Gross yield from that packet of 1,000 seeds, it's about 5,000 kgs, that's 5 tons. And what is sellable? Sorry for that mistake of 400 kgs. What is sellable? It's about 4,000 kgs. Here, I'm simply knocking off about 20% loss factor. And with just a price of 20 cents per kg for your tomatoes, one can easily have a gross return of about $800 with a gross profit of $694.30. Of course, there are other overheads which can come up in form of land prep and so forth. But remember, we are talking of approximately 8.3 of a hectare for all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crops. KPG, 2,500 seeds at $12.70. Other inputs required totaling 105. Total input cost, that's 117. We can get 2,500 heads if all agronomic practices are followed. And sellable heads being 2,000 heads. And with that, we can easily achieve $600 gross return, just selling a head at 30 cents and a gross profit of 482. Onion, dinner F1 with just 25 grams. The value of that pack is $9.10. Other inputs, $87. Total input cost, $96.10. One can easily get a yield of 500 kgs and sellable weight being 400 kgs at 40 cents per kilo. One will realize 160 gross return with a gross profit of about $90 cents. Then squash butternut, granite F1, 500 seeds alone, 31 US. Other inputs, 96. Total input cost, 127. Yield, that's gross yield, 3.5 kg, sellable 2.5. At 35 cents per kilo, we can realize a gross return of 980, giving us a gross profit of around 853. Sugar beans, Gadra, again, 10 kgs, that's what we can get. Rape rampant, if this package is gonna excite you, and I know it has already started exciting you, I have no problem giving you rape rampant for free, 15 grams, which you can just grow and gross yield, giving you a gross yield of about 600 bundles, 480 bundles sellable at $1. That's the return. Gross return of that combo is totaling around 3,180 and a gross profit of 2,622. Honestly, with this kind of, and these are not just figures. I am challenging you farmers to even visit our research station. This is all happening here at the Seed Research Station. Both GAS's employees can testify. Anyone who visited our trial site will testify. We will walk you through together from planting up to even harvesting. We are in every corner of Zim with our sales agronomists. We can actually take you through right from identification of the variety, seeding, crop management, harvesting, and in some cases, even linking you to the markets which are there. Those are my details for you who want to get to know more. If you're still doubting my figures, you are free to call me, even on WhatsApp. Then I'll again make sure that we are on the same path. So with this presentation, I thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Masimba, for that very great presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard from our vegetable section. As he has already emphasized, if you are willing to bring in a team of your employees, do get in touch with us. Masimba and his team are more than willing to give you a tour and to give you a tour of our trial site so that you can have a better understanding of our varieties, our crops, and crop management. We are bringing an opportunity to help employees do their best work each day. So we're saying to you employers, this is an opportunity for your employees to do their best work, to motivate them, to increase retention. And here at Stepford, we have a team that is ready and willing to assist you with all your inquiries. And we are ready to hold your hand and walk with you, giving you step by step until you achieve your bumper harvest. That is the reason we are here, and we are more than willing to hold your hand and give you an opportunity to answer all your questions, to answer all your queries, any question that you might have. We have a team that is dedicated and here and available to answer all your questions. I'm just saying that most of our questions have already been answered. If you have any other burning questions, do put them in our question and answer forum. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for spending these 2 hours with us, learning and getting insight on our varieties and what we have to offer as SEEDCO. So before we close, I'm just going to hand over this time to our senior manager, public relations, communications, and special projects, Ms. Marjorie Mutemererwa, for our final word.
Thank you very much, Chiedza. We're trying to be on time, but I saw someone who raised their hand. Can we just give them a minute, a second to ask? Maybe it might be beneficial to everyone. Mache, are you able to unmute them so they can ask, or you want them to put on the chat box? I think if we can have ask Mr. Mache. I saw a Mache.
Mache, let me just go through. Okay, you can also make use of our chat box if you have any burning questions. Please do make use of our chat box as I look for the raised hand.
Okay, the hand is down now. CEOs, MDs, executives, decision makers. You know, when I was growing up as a young Christian, I used to see ladies standing in front of the church giving testimonies. You know, today this happened, today this happened. And I used to wonder, when is my time going to come for me to be able to stand up in front of a congregation and give a testimony? Until I realized that, you know what, in as much as I'm a Christian, I'm in church, but I'm playing with the wrong crowd. And I believe, you know, we may have been playing with the wrong crowd before this symposium, but today, you and us, we are now playing together. We are now playing in the same space. We are now friends. And I can assure you that the day that I realized that I was playing with the wrong crowd and I needed to move and shift and play with the right crowd, it has been testimony after testimony. And I'm assured that after today, there will be testimonies after testimonies from your employees, from yourselves, and from employers that morale has been boosted because we purchased seed from SEEDCO for our employees. You heard from Masimba and Wendy. We have everything that a Zimbabwean requires. We have hands, we have feet, we have heads, we have eyes, we have ears in terms of our product basket. So ladies and gentlemen, do not hesitate to get hold of Chiedza. She shared her contact details, but I'll share them again. Her email address is Chiedza, CHIEDZA.mutizwa, MUTIZWA @seedcogroup.com. Chiedza, if you can just put your contact details on the screen, please. You also heard from Wendy and Masimba that we have everything for everyone. Do not go and shortchange your employees. Do not go and shortchange yourselves as employers. Buy them. A 2 kg, it won't make a difference in your bottom line. I'm telling you, what it will do though, it will enhance your bottom line because your employee will be motivated. Buy them a packet of vegetable seeds. Put that in the Christmas hampers. In fact, don't wait until Christmas. Buy today. Buy today. Buy. Our offices are open. Wendy, Masimba, Chiedza, and myself are available. We are trying to make sure that everything is coordinated. So your contact person will be Chiedza. She has shared her contact details there. Take screenshots, bag her, neg her, and let's do it right for ourselves, for our employees, for our families. Don't worry about how much it will cost. What it will cost is a smile on your employee's face. So thank you very much for coming through. Buy SEEDCO seeds. We have seeds for everyone. We have the best agronomists. You heard from Wendy. You saw Wendy. You saw Masimba. You heard from Masimba. And we are saying we don't want some other people to be talking about the Zimbabwean story. Let the Zimbabwean story come from the right sources so that all of us we have a testimony. And the right sources are our employees. Let's not hesitate to put smiles on their faces. I'll reiterate again, seeding and feeding your employees one at a time will bring food security to your employees, their households, Zimbabwe, Africa, and beyond. Do not hesitate to get in touch with Chiedza. Thank you very much. Have a bumper, fruitful summer season. Let's meet at the altar as we testify of what our employees are doing as a result of buying Seedco Seed through this employee and employer scheme. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Chitagu. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end of our symposium.
Thank you, Chiedza. Well done. Thank you, everyone. God bless.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Masimba. Thank you.
Dr. Chitagu.
Thank you.
Good day.
It's off to the fields now to dig those kumbuza holes.
Most certainly, yes, definitely. And yes, when these are available for assistance.
Thank you. We will certainly bug you.